Welcome back.
Oh, yeah, man, how you doing? You good? I know you like that.
Welcome into the Saturday Show, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this Saturday morning. I'm Jay Catch, and we kind of got a new era of the Saturday Show getting underway today. Now, we've been off the last 2 weeks. That's obviously coinciding with me being off on some parental leave, so thank you for bearing with us on that. But I am still here, but we're making a little bit of a change in the lineup, as they say, and we're going to have a little bit of a trio of co-hosts now. So I'm going to have two of my fellow producers, I should say, here at The Zone joining me on a regular basis. And we're going to do an hour with both of them today. So first up, Alex Napoles. What's up, dude?
How's it going?
Doing well. Thanks for doing this, by the way.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Excited to have you be a part of it. Now, Christian Esparza will be the other individual whose voice people will hear pretty regularly. And I figured, you know what? If we're going to launch this, let's do it the right way. Have both you guys on. Let you guys kind of explain who you are, etc. Now, you've been with the station. Are we at a year yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
It'll be 1 year in August, so in a couple weeks.
Okay. So you haven't been here that long, but you're a veteran at this point because we have some turnover from time to time, and it seems like our producers, we turn over a fair amount. But Alex, you've been pretty well known, I think, in soccer circles with your work on the RSL show, which is partnered with KSL Sports. It's actually housed on KSLSports.com, right?
Yes, that's right.
You do a great job with that. You guys actually had, who was it that you had on recently? It was... DJ Eracalypse, right?
Yes. Yep. We did something with Iraq a while back, and he's such a cool guy, such an awesome guy to get to know and like sit down and talk to. Super funny guy. So yeah, we just like to sit around and have fun like that. So
well, you guys like to chop it up, and that's kind of what we do here on this show. So it's been fun. I guess first thing for me, and we'll as we typically do on the Saturday show, I like to start off the show with your highlight of your week. Anything you got in mind that was a highlight of the week so far?
I think for me, obviously, I'm a big sports nerd, but I'm also a big music nerd.
You work in sports radio. Breaking news, everybody. Nonetheless, go ahead.
Big music nerd as well on top of that. And so I think my highlight of the week had to be Wednesday night watching the soccer game, and then on the other screen having the Kendrick Lamar concert that everybody's talking about, because it was a big historical moment in hip hop, and it was awesome to just be able to watch it.
Now, he put Drake on blast once again as part of it, but it was in like one of those iconic concerts. I think it's still being talked about. It's kind of crazy. And I was doing the RSL game that night, and I was seeing tweets about it. I'm like, why did Kendrick release a new diss track? Because initially I didn't see that he was having a concert. I'm like, oh, great. Are we back with the diss tracks? And then I found out that he was doing a concert, and he essentially did a diss track like 5 straight times.
Yes. He closed the show with Not Like Us 5 times.
Yeah.
Which, that moment's just going to go down in music history.
Good stuff. So, all right. So, music. All right. Are you a hip hop connoisseur, or is it all types?
If I vibe with it, I vibe with it.
Okay.
I'll throw in some classic rock in there. I'll throw in some indie, some pop. It just depends if it's good. If it gives you the emotions of vibing with it, I like it.
So all music then, essentially. There you go. Okay, very cool. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes portion of today's show. Let's talk a little bit about the NBA, Utah Jazz in particular. Now, NBA finals are over, so we're kind of in that weird lull right now where it's like, okay, the draft's next week, but we haven't necessarily had a ton to talk about, but we do have some movement going on. I want to start off with your thoughts on the Jazz. Let's start off local, and we'll go national here in a minute. Give me your feel. Now, the Utah Jazz have 3 picks, 2 of them in the first round, 1 early on in the second round. I want first answer from you, Alex. I'll give you my answer too on this. What are the percentage chances you think the Jazz make all 3 of those selections?
I give it a 50-50.
Ooh, I'm not even that high. I'm like 30%.
Really?
Yeah, I think that they trade at least 1, maybe 2 of those.
Well, there's rumors swirling for sure.
Sure, but there always is. This is the Liars Club that's going on right now. Like, hey, we're interested in this player. Sure you are. Okay, no, but the thing about it is the Jazz took 3 guys last year, and all 3 of them are still on the roster today. Bryce Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks, as well as Keontae George. I just don't see them having another 3 rookies on this roster. Now, I can also acknowledge the fact that this is a team that's in flux to a very large degree. I mean, who knows what ultimately looks like by the end of free agency and the like. So you think it's 50-50 on them taking all 3 picks. Which one do you think they're most likely to move if they move it, though?
I think the one that has the most value, right? The one that's going to get you like a good player if you decide to trade away, it has to be that 10th pick. I think if teams are calling the Jazz and talking about potential trades, I think teams are going to be looking at that 10th pick just because it has the most value and it's going to be the highest pick, obviously, in this upcoming draft.
Okay, so with that, we've been talking about this on DJ and PK as well, and I know you filled in for me. They were talking about it probably when you were filling in too, is that there's a whole, the quote from Danny Ainge, we're going big game hunting. Now, there's the rumor out there about Zach LaVine stuff. There's all rumors about them potentially wanting to move off Walker Kessler. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine he is as big a Jazz fan as anybody. We had that conversation on Thursday, and he thinks that he's like, there's one sacred cow. That's the term he uses. There's one sacred cow on this roster, and it's Lowry Markkanen. But even Lowry's been rumored to be on the move. So I guess, Alex, let's dive in. What do you, let's say at the end of this, let's say by September when training camp's about to get going, what in your mind would constitute the Utah Jazz having gone, quote unquote, big game hunting?
This is a league that's fueled by superstars, right?
Sure.
This is a league that, you have the top players on playing, top tier basketball. So I think what constitute big game hunting is finding another superstar to coincide with the superstar that you already have in Lowry Markkanen.
Okay.
I think Lowry is a piece that you have to hold on to.
I would agree with you on that.
And then you have to get him support. You have to bring in another superstar, quote unquote, to help Lowry Markkanen. That's the way I see big game hunting.
Okay,
I don't know if it's realistic.
Yeah, but sure, I get where you're coming from. But here's my question: for me, Zach LaVine ain't it.
No.
But we had David Locke on with DJ and PK yesterday. It was DJ, PK was out, but he said that you want to have top 100 players. That's what you need. You need to have talent on the roster. And Zach LaVine is a top 100 player in the NBA. And I agree with that. And Locke's whole thing was you need talent there. I just look at it, and DJ came up with a very good point that the next media rights deal for the NBA is going to, unless they do the smoothing of the cap with the NBA Players Association, which they didn't do last time, that $40-some-odd million contract annually for LaVine actually is palatable under the future salary caps, the projections of those. I just don't know if Zach LaVine is the guy you want here right now if he is going to be a part of a core that's supposed to, in theory, make you a playoff / contender. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, 100%. And I think it comes a lot to do with the fact that, Zach LaVine, over the course of the last couple of years, has kind of built himself a reputation of being a little bit of a diva, right? There was situations in Chicago where him and DeMar weren't on the same page. There were situations where him and the head coach weren't on the same page, and he made his frustrations visible. He made his frustrations known to the media that, he was frustrated in those situations. And so I don't know if that's necessarily a guy you want to bring into the culture of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Zach LaVine isn't the same Zach LaVine he was 3 years ago. His game has definitely declined, and I don't know if it's because of the situation that Chicago was just, had and made. With bringing in DeRozan, it was supposed to make him title contenders. It was supposed to make them a very good team, and I just don't think it's worked out that way for Chicago.
Well, and they're blowing it up.
Yes.
They traded Alex Caruso to OKC. They got Josh Giddey in return. And Josh Giddey's a fine player. Don't get me wrong, but I'm hardly looking at that saying, hey, you know what? Chicago just got better. Oklahoma City got better, I think, with Alex Caruso.
Absolutely.
And they should be even better than they were because he is a very, very good, especially on defense. Like, he's a lockdown guard. I think essentially they're pushing the eject button in Chicago. They're going to blow it up. Nikola Vukovic, they've got, you talk about DeMar. Like, you just look at it and you're like, okay, they tried. You're right. They brought in DeMar and they were like, okay, but a bunch of guys over the age of 30 and you're not going anywhere. I think they're looking at the reality that they are at best 5th, 4th, if they get lucky, 3rd in the Eastern Conference, and they just had the Boston Celtics run roughshod through the playoffs, and they're like, we on that level? No. We on Milwaukee's level? No. All right, well,
time to start over.
Let's reset. So that could yield, I guess, say, Zach LaVine, that's one of the rumors we've heard out there. Now, you talk about wanting to get a superstar to pair with Lauri Markkanen. I have been a person, and I'll just inject my thought real quick, and I'll get your reaction to it, is that Lauri is the perfect complement to a true number one. Now, Lauri has been playing in that number one role, and I think he's been fine. But I think the Jazz, to, in theory, do what they want to do, which is emulate what Boston is doing. And just winning that title like they did. And by the way, congratulations. That was really cool to see them do that. Because remember, there were so many people doubting them. It's like, oh, okay. But Jaylen Brown, Derek White, you look at Jason Tatum, obviously, doing their thing. I feel like Lauri is perfectly suited to play the quote-unquote Jaylen Brown role, where you have a superstar alongside you. And I'm not even saying Jaylen Brown's not he could be number one, I think, in certain circumstances. But if you can go out and find that alpha, whatever, the top tier player, and make Lauri the Robin to their Batman, I think that's the ideal scenario. Now, that's easy said.
Right.
Actually doing that and finding that, because who knows what player or players come available. That's a big question mark in and of itself. How many draft assets / players / salary you've got to give up to make that happen. But David Locke said it last year. There were rumors about Luka Doncic being unhappy in Dallas. And David said if Luka Doncic comes available, the Utah Jazz have to cash in everything that they can to get him. Now, them making a run to the NBA Finals this year, it looks like Luka's sticking around in Dallas for a while. So is there somebody out there in your mind, Alex, that they're that alpha that the Jazz could go get in theory, or you'd like to see them pursue that is out there? Because I'd like to think that there's somebody out there, but I just don't. The cost may be prohibitive, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely, and you always have to look at cost. You always have to look at salary before making those moves. But I think we're both in agreement that you have to hold on to Lauri.
Yes, he's the consummate modern forward. He's 7 feet. He can shoot the three. He can play inside out. He fits exactly what the modern NBA demands of a player of his caliber. He doesn't have number one material to me. It's like he has the ability to take over games at times, but he can't seemingly do it at will. And you need to have somebody out there. Jason Tatum, when he wants to go get a bucket, he can get it. I keep going back to the Celtics conversation, but there are multiple guys like that. And I want to see the Jazz have one of those guys because I think Lauri would be the perfect complement to one of them.
I think, look, at the end of the day, like, Chicago isn't going to be the only team that's going to be looking to kind of reset and start over. There's a couple of teams in the NBA that have kind of built their roster and it hasn't really worked out for them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where the Jazz need to start. I think that's where the Jazz need to look, because there's going to be quote-unquote superstars that might be looking to move on. Teams might be looking to move on from them. And I think Phoenix might be a good market to look at. It hasn't really worked out for Phoenix.
Well,
Devin Booker might be a little bit. And yes, exactly. Yeah. Devin Booker might be a little bit unhappy down there with the situation, building a super team and not really having it work out. Those are the teams that the Jazz has to look at in order to pick off a superstar, a top tier caliber player who can potentially come in and help Lauri Markkanen.
Now, Devin Booker is a bit of a lightning rod, but you mentioning his name brought something to my mind. You know who his favorite coach when he was with the Phoenix Suns was?
Who was that?
Some guy by the name of Kevin Young.
Oh, interesting.
Who may currently be the head coach of the BYU Cougars. And Danny Ainge obviously has a relationship with BYU, so does Ryan Smith. So I'm not saying it's impossible. Devin would fill that role as that true number one in my mind. Now, I know that there are Jazz fans and NBA fans who are listening to today's show saying, are you kidding me? I really think he has that in him. He is. You talk about maturing. Like, his game is matured. He's no longer the consummate bucket getter. Remember, he had that 70-some-odd point game.
Yes. Yep.
Like, those days for Devin Booker seem to be in the past. He seems like he's understood, okay, I got to play more in the framework of having a team around me. And you're right. Phoenix, Matt Ishbia went all in with a big splash, thinking, okay, I'm going to get my trio together. We're going to get our group of the triplets, to use that Dallas Cowboys reference from the 90s. I'm going to bring in Kevin Durant. We got Bradley Beal. We got Devin Booker. We're going to be great. And you're right. It has not worked. And let's just put it this way. The way the salary cap is structured, that second apron, we're getting into some really technical jargon. If you want to learn about it, go listen to Bobby Marks or somebody from ESPN who can explain it far better than I can. But essentially, in trouble. Like they have no ability to move. And by the way, to make the moves that they made, they mortgaged the future with their draft picks and the like. So you're right. You're probably looking at a Phoenix saying, all right, what are you guys gonna do? Are you gonna claim that everything's hunky dory when we know it's not? Do you make a phone call down there if you're Danny Ainge or Justin Zanuck saying, okay, let's be real. You guys know that you need to make a move. What's going to take to get Book? And it's going to take a lot. Trust me, if you want to leverage a player of his caliber out of a position like that draft war chest, all those picks, you're going to be partnered with a number of them, as well as some fairly decent players on this Jazz roster. It may necessitate a Keontae George or a Taylor Hendricks going in that deal because they want young players in return. Is it worth it, though?
I think if you want to go big game hunting now, yes.
I would agree.
But if you're still in the process of trying to really rebuild with these young stars, then maybe that's not a situation you want to look at. But if the big game hunting is now, if you want to win, kind of head more towards a direction of win now, then that is a move that you're probably looking to make.
Now, I'm with you on that because it's all dependent on the philosophy of the Utah Jazz are pursuing. But Danny Ainge doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't. He doesn't go out and talk to every media outlet out there. It's just not how he operates. But when he's made that statement, he didn't make that statement. I think just for making a statement's sake. He wants to turn this around. I think that Ryan Smith and the Jazz, they pay attention to the fan sentiment as well. Social media has its place. Let's be very frank about that. I don't think they want to be stuck in a perpetual rebuild because they understand it will turn off Jazz fans. Now, they also are adding in the fact that you're bringing an NHL team to town that's going to probably take some eyeballs away from the Jazz. So you want to obviously, you got to weigh all those options. But it's all philosophically what they have in mind. And I would love to see them go all in. Like, just jumpstart this right now. Get Lauri Markkanen a compliment to be your top two players. See what Keontae George evolves into. I think Taylor Hendricks, DJ talks about it, he thinks Taylor Hendricks' ceiling is a Scottie Pippen type player. And if he gets anywhere near that, that's phenomenal. But there's a lot of intrigue with this offseason, but I don't want to come September and be sitting there saying, well, the Jazz didn't make any moves, really. They drafted a bunch of guys, and we're in for another 20 to 30 win season and another lottery. I do not want to see that.
Yes. Yeah. And look, I think I just having this conversation earlier this week with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about how obviously the Boston Celtics are the NBA champions.
Sure.
Danny Ainge had a big hand in that.
Yes.
But you go back to where it all started, and that was back in 2013 when Garnett and Pierce were traded away, and they brought in all these picks from Brooklyn.
They fleeced the Brooklyn Nets.
Yes, exactly. That started in 2013, but how long did it take for them to get to where they are today? I don't think Boston were a good team again in the NBA until probably maybe 2021. And that trade happened in 2013 where you get Jaylen Brown, where you get Jason Tatum. So it's a process. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a little bit of patience. And we've heard this before from the Utah Jazz brass. It's going to take some patience. And the project, I think, that they're trying to build right now is trying to replicate a little bit of what we just saw with the Boston Celtics. Well,
and I'm with you on that. They want to have a lineup that is versatile. It can play inside out. It can play five out. They want to be able to play positionless basketball. And that's in vogue. Trust me, every NBA team, every college team, every high school team would love to have that capability. And you're right. Right now, it's all about accumulating talent for the Jazz. But the talent, it comes in different bunches. You talk about draft picks. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are homegrown talents for the Boston Celtics. For Danny Ainge, and by the way, he has made incredible moves throughout his run as a front office executive to essentially move out of the number one pick, still end up with possibly the best player in that draft class by jumping to 3, was just a masterstroke. And I think he's endeavoring to do, as you mentioned, similar things here with the Utah Jazz. But Jazz fans, I think that they're grumpy about, like, how long is this going to take? Well, you're right. The initial move or moves that led to the 2024 NBA title, as you mentioned, a decade plus ago.
Yes.
11 years ago. Can you jumpstart that in any way, shape, or form? That is to be determined, but that's how long it can take at times.
And yeah, and like I said, it requires patience, but definitely like we're talking about, if you go big game hunting, you bring in a big player now, you definitely give a little bit more of a jump start to that rebuild, to that adding that talent to that roster. And now you're looking, you maybe accelerated your potential to be a title contender by maybe 5 years if you bring in a guy like Booker.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see what they ultimately can pursue. And now the other thing about it is I talked about the conversation I had with my friend, and I think he's right. There's only really one sacred cow on this roster. And I retorted to him, I'm like, the only other guy that I'll say guys that I say you let it ride on a little bit, you don't necessarily want to move them, are Keontae George and Taylor Hendricks. I think you want to see what you have with both of those guys. So there's essentially three guys I would say, if you don't have to move them, do not do that. But everybody else, Jordan Clarkson included, are all options. Everything's on the table, and they have to be at this point. Like you can't just sit back and be like, all right, you've got to be proactive in this circumstance.
Oh, absolutely. And I think as fans, we kind of gravitate and levitate to the players that are on the roster, and they become fan favorites, and it's hard to let them go. But in the case of like Jordan Clarkson, there also has to be an internal clock where maybe it's time to say, hey, we can get something out of him. Let's move on, right? And it's unfortunate because Jordan Clarkson is a fan favorite, and the people of Utah love Jordan Clarkson.
Yes,
and sometimes,
trust me, the ownership loves Jordan Clarkson.
Yes. Yeah, and sometimes even I'm a victim of that, because like a guy like Colin Sexton. Absolutely love Colin Sexton.
Sure.
And I would love to
I
would love to hold on to him, but if the deal is right, and if a team comes calling for him and the deal is right, you got to take it.
It feels that way. And obviously, there are all kinds of contract negotiations that are going to happen. I know Lowry Market, I'm just looking this up. He is eligible for a long-term extension, but not until early August. So free agency will have died down by the time he's eligible. Now, I think you lock him up. You do it. He's too good of a player, unless, let's say, the whole Devin Booker situation, or another team calls up and says, we have this grade A number one option, but to get him, you got to give us Lowry. And maybe you consider it at that point. But if you can avoid it, I think you keep Lowry around. You give him the extension. You max out however long you can with him and see what you're capable of. The other thing about this is, I just was reading this. Do you know how many starting lineups the Utah Jazz have used in the last 2 seasons?
How many have they used?
54 different starting lineups over 2 seasons. There is not a lot of consistency and continuity, nor has there been able to be, because they've jettisoned a bunch of guys at the trade deadline the past 2 years. So I think you're right. You have to both be patient, but the second that phone call comes that the deal is there for you, move. You push all those chips in, to use the gamma. You say, yeah, we'll do it.
Yep.
That may come this offseason, may come next offseason. It may never come, but you have to be ready for it. I get the feeling that Danny Ainge, he did not make that statement for nothing. He knows that there is pressure out there to do something. Zach LaVine is not it for me. That's personal opinion aside. But there are going to be other options. You're right. Phoenix is going to have to do something, because they're stuck in a big, big way. And there are going to be other teams just like that. They're going to find themselves with that second luxury tax apron saying, oh, crap, we have no ability to do anything. Hey, who's got some assets out there? Okay, Oklahoma City's got some. The Jazz let's make some phone calls and see what we can do. And if you're the Jazz, you sit and find what you can get. Now, real quick, actually, you know what? Let's come back on the other side. I want to talk a little bit about JJ Reddick.
Okay.
His hire with the Los Angeles Lakers makes me chuckle. That was a bit of a baffling deal, but hey, we'll get into more of that. I also want to talk some soccer with you as well. We'll get into all that next, coming up right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Hatch as well as Alex Napoles breaking things down. Now, the Los Angeles Lakers made a curious move, Alex. They hired JJ Reddick from the analyst chair. They're trying to pull their own version of Steve Kerr. Now, yesterday, DJ put up a poll question during our show on DJ and PK and essentially asked how many full seasons, it's a 4-year deal reportedly, how many full seasons will JJ Reddick complete with the Los Angeles Lakers? I can tell you the overwhelming majority, picked 2. And I think that's right in the realm because if you look at the history of the Lakers, that's kind of what coaches get. JJ Reddick is an interesting hire in and of himself, but then David Locke came on and he thinks he's going to go 7 years. Yes, Alex's face is what?
What?
Now, he did clarify saying that essentially, let's say that he has an immediate run with LeBron and AD and see what he does. So that's 2 years essentially, in theory. Then LeBron moves on. That gives you a little bit of a reprieve maybe to see what you can rebuild there. Then AD potentially moves on. So that's the way Locke sees it, is he gets essentially, he's going to find himself with a second contract at some point. I'm sitting here, I'm like, 7 years? No. No offense to JJ Reddick. I just think that the Los Angeles Lakers, they are fundamentally flawed as a franchise in terms of the roster in particular, and they're not patient. So give me your thought. What do you think JJ Reddick's going to be as a head coach?
I think he's right around in the realm of 2-3 years.
Okay.
I think I would agree with you. I'm not sure about 7, but it does seem like the Lakers are in a weird situation where at one point, the Lakers was probably the most lucrative coaching job out there in the NBA
Ask
market.
Phil Jackson.
Exactly.
Ask Pat Riley, yeah.
And now it's like, I don't know if anybody wants to like really get over there and touch it with the 10-foot pole because it's just kind of a mess at the moment for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Well, it is a mess, and that is the problem. If you're LA, is you tried to go and get Dan Hurley, and awesome, you took a big swing at that. And Dan Hurley entertained it, talked with them, and ultimately decided, you know what, I'm better served to stay where I'm at. And good for Dan Hurley. But the other thing about this, I look at it and say, I'm like JJ Reddick, I think he'll do fine. But is he going to elevate the Lakers to a championship level? In my heart of hearts, no. But that may be the Jazz fan who can't stand the Lakers in me that's saying that. I don't know. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, and I think it comes with merit because the way I see the JJ Reddick hire is it just reminds me of Vogel. It just reminds me of Ham, who just obviously Darvin Ham, who just got fired. It reads the same thing to me, right? It reads kind of a similar hire. Plus, in this situation, like JJ Reddick does not have the coaching experience. He has never been a coach. He's never been an assistant. He's never been on a staff. He's never experienced that. So you're bringing in essentially another Vogel to the Los Angeles Lakers, but without the experience.
And he's going to have to hire some pretty dang good assistants to help him navigate this. There's something to be said that he played as long as he did in the NBA. And the whole conspiracy theory out there, they started this podcast with LeBron with the whole notion that we're going to work this and you're going to end up like, here's the deal. LeBron manipulates a lot of stuff. That one's a bit of a stretch for me that you decided to create a podcast with the whole goal that, hey, JJ, I know you've been doing this analyst thing. I think you can be my head coach. No, that does not square up for me. But he is a neophyte when it comes to NBA coaching experience, period. I think he can get it done, but just with how the Lakers are built, like that job, JJ, that's not the job to take. There are other jobs in the NBA you could have pursued, but at the same time, nobody said common sense was all that common.
I also think it makes a difference, and I'm glad you bring up the podcast because I think it makes a difference that he is buddies with LeBron.
It does help.
I think the Lakers wanted to bring someone in with the relationship to LeBron James in efforts to make sure that LeBron decides to stay in LA because there's still no 100% certainty on LeBron's future.
Okay, that's the thing about this. Dan Wojcicki from the LA Times, he was reporting yesterday, if I recall correctly, that he expects LeBron to opt out of his current deal. Now, they still expect him to re-sign with the Lakers. Now that would be it'd be the same thing it's always been. It's a 2-year deal, player option on the second year. So it's in essence a 1-year deal. It's just and the whole thing with Bronny, like Rich Paul. I do this with all my clients. That we only work out for. No, you don't. You're trying to game the system. It's not hard to see. The future with LeBron is murky. And if you're JJ, like, yeah, you're buddies with him, but how long are you going to have him on your roster with? 2 years maybe? Like, that's the thing about it. You're looking at, yeah, he's buddies with him, but JJ's got to come in and he's got to get it done now. There is no like long-term, down-the-road future with the LeBron-led Los Angeles Lakers. It is get it done, and you get it done next year.
And if you don't, then you're looking at probably an early dismissal for JJ Reddick. And we're just back to the same situation we are now.
Hey, it's the never-ending story with the Los Angeles Lakers.
That's what it seems like the Lakers is now, unfortunately. And, they went from being one of the most historic, storied franchises to now it's just rinse and repeat of going through one coach and then getting impatient, not meeting expectations.
But if there's a franchise that can fail up, it's always the Lakers.
I mean, hey, they won the in-season tournament.
Hey, what are they calling it? The Emirates Cup now, or whatever they're calling it, because it's got a sponsor on it. I remember when they won that thing, all the chatter. Oh my goodness, the Lakers! Watch out! And it fell apart.
Oh, absolutely,
hard,
absolutely.
I look at what JJ is stepping into, and I tip of the cap to you, sir. You go do your thing, man. And I wish you nothing but the best. I wish him truthfully nothing but the best as he goes forward, because he's taking a gamble, because I thought he was pretty darn good as an analyst. And let's also be real. Doc Rivers, if he can continue to be an analyst and go and coach and then be an analyst and going, JJ Reddick's going to have that opportunity. He's going to be like a Jeff Van Gundy. He's going to be like a Steve Kerr, who have the ability to morph between the two worlds in the NBA. But this is an interesting time for him to step into coaching and to step into a team, the pressure cooker that is LA and the Lakers and LeBron and AD and potentially Bronny coming on board. And I look at this and I wonder how much of a shelf life it really has.
And I wish him nothing but the best. Obviously, yeah. I want people to succeed and I want him to do good. But the reality is, like we were just talking about, the Lakers are kind of a mess. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how long it takes for them to be successful, if they can be successful.
That's the $1 million question with the Los Angeles Lakers. Can they actually pull it off? And it's like, well, you can see it. You can see ways it would happen. But let's also be honest. The recent past for LA, it's been a whole bunch of mirages. Like, oh, hey, they won the in-season tournament. They look really, really good. It's like, no, that's one thing. Putting together over an 82-game season and being able to prove it in the playoffs, like, if you're the Lakers, you're looking at it saying, okay, we're in the tougher conference. Like, in theory, how many teams do you say are playoff contenders in the West next year? I would say at least 11, Lakers included.
I'd have to think about it and break down kind of every team, but I think you're right about there in that ballpark number.
Maybe there's 12. It's dog eat dog out there. There are good teams who are not even going to sniff the play-in. That's just, and I'm not, the Jazz right now, for all intents and purposes, they're not in that conversation for me. They could, by the end of the summer, become part of that conversation, but I'm talking right now. And we haven't even hit NBA free agency yet. We haven't gone through the draft. But I think there are 12 teams in the Western Conference. The Lakers, I'm going to say 11. And I look at it and say, those are the best teams in the conference. And are you going to, if you're LA, are you going to climb over all those teams? I'm hard-pressed to say you're going to do that because it just doesn't seem likely.
No, it doesn't, especially with the kind of, like I said, the situation that they are in now. There's so much uncertainty to this Lakers team's future. There's so much uncertainty to the roster, to the team, to the obviously the staff. With Reddick coming in, there's so much uncertainty, and it's I feel like for younger guys that might hinder the development of these younger guys that are with the LA Lakers.
The Lakers are not here for development.
Yes.
They're here to win right now. And the whole thing with Bronny coming in. have fun with the South Bay Lakers, bud.
Yeah.
It seems that's the way it's going to go. Because I'm looking at OKC, Denver, Minnesota, the playoff teams from this past year, every single one of them, they're going to run it back. Like, even the Warriors, they're going to make another run. They still got Steph, still got Draymond. Who knows what's happening with Clay, but they're still going to do it. And then I think you add the Houston Rockets to that mix. And the 12th team, if I were to add the 12th team to it, it's probably the Memphis Grizzlies. You think that Ja being healthy and not being a knucklehead off the court will I think that's the 12th team. The Spurs, the Jazz, the Trailblazers, probably the 3 odd teams out right now. Man, I just have a hard time believing the Lakers are going to be any better than where they were this year, and that's 7th.
It's even looking at you just naming those teams right now. I think they do have a better potential of making the playoffs than the Trailblazers,
sure,
than the Spurs, but at the same time, I don't know if they go anywhere past the play-in tournament as they did this year.
That's the 7th spot. So it's just like, okay, well, we'll see. And I just now Paul George leaving the Clippers, that weakens that. If he does, he's going to be a free agent. And but the Western Conference is deep. It is absolutely going to be a very tough slog. And yeah, JJ, you may be, with a fairly short tenure, might find yourself right back in the analyst chair pretty quick. We'll see, but it's going to be an interesting conversation. Now, before we take a break, I did mean to talk some soccer with you. So I'm making this just like, we're just going to jerk the wheel to the right here, and you and I are going to be on the broadcast tonight with Real Salt Lake. But there's another LA team. That's going to be the connection between these two. The Los Angeles Galaxy making the trip to America First Field tonight. Now, Real Salt Lake is in first place, 2 points clear of both LAFC and the Galaxy in the standings. Give me your sense. RSL, 15 matches unbeaten. Wednesday night was a wild, wild game. It could have ended up 7-6, 8-7, ended up 4-3 in the end. Give me your sense going into tonight. LA coming in.
I feel good. Obviously, I think Real Salt Lake have kind of found a new confidence at home, right? It's starting to feel the fans are selling it out. Mm-hmm. It's starting to feel like a fortress again, and I think that's super important considering you're taking on the third place team with no center backs. Keep in mind that that's going to be super important tonight. The fact that Brian Vera suspended, the fact that Justin Glad is still questionable heading into this one, who's going to play center back?
Let's go.
So I think that's going to be super, super important, is to have that home crowd behind you, being the 12th man, being, clamping down on that Galaxy team, because it's going to be a difficult match. This is a Galaxy team who has a very, very good offense, even without Ricky Puig. Puig is also questionable heading into this one, right?
Yep.
So it's going to come down to, it might just come down to that home field advantage, because no matter what, Real Salt Lake's going to score. No matter what, they're going to score. They have one of the best offenses right now in Major League Soccer, but those center backs, it's scary considering now you're taking on one of the other better offenses in Major League Soccer.
We'll see. It is fun to have a team that is better than the LA teams right now, and that is Real Salt Lake. So we'll see what happens. But you're right. It could be one of those. If any of you, I know there's a lot of NBA that don't, soccer world, those two don't mix. But if you want to watch games that could be end-to-end action, well, Wednesday night with Sporting Kansas City was exactly that. And yeah, with the deficiencies, with the injuries in particular for Real Salt Lake on defense, it could be that tonight as well. We'll see what happens. All right, so Alex, we'll round out your hour on the program, hour one of the program, with one of our old staples, technical fouls. And we'll get to that next, coming up right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you're coming from the street with dirty shoes on your feet, that's a technical foul. If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
You'll get hit with a bat.
'cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
As you just heard, it is time now for technical fouls, and we got some doozies this week. Can I start with mine first? Because yours is the better one, I think, of the two, Alex.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So, J-Catch, Alex, Napoles. Okay, Browns practice squad player, Cleveland Browns practice squad, Cleveland Browns practice player Lonnie Phelps was arrested for DUI after allegedly crashing his SUV into a Florida restaurant, leaving it wedged in the building.
Terrible.
Now, he was also combative with police, like was refusing to comply. They took him into custody. He allegedly has caused $300,000 in damage to this restaurant. I'm trying to see what the name of the restaurant was, but it's in Florida. He's no longer a member of the Cleveland Browns, as you might imagine, because as a practice squad player, you do something like this, and they're like, "Hey, thanks, but you gone. See ya. Thank you for coming, and have a great day." And it is like, watch out for buildings. First off, don't drive while you're drunk. And second, watch out for buildings. But yeah, he is now going to be looking for his next opportunity in the NFL. But as a former, I think he played it let's see, he had no regular season snaps during his rookie year in Cleveland last year. Yeah, I think he may be seeing 0 snaps for the foreseeable future.
Former Kansas Jayhawk.
Yeah, so good luck to you. But geez, come on now. Like, let's be a little bit better about that. All right. Anyway, so that's one thing. But let's talk about championship parades. How about that?
The Boston Celtics had their championship parade yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And who else but the president of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, on the team bus with the Boston Celtics, just showering himself with all the alcohol and all the champagne as if he's a part of the Boston Celtics team.
Dave, stop it. No, we ain't doing this.
It's a bad look.
What did you do to help them win the championship? Root them on, bet some big money? Because you trust me, if you pay attention to Dave Portnoy on social media, he loves nothing more than flaunting how much money he bets.
Oh, yeah.
Who from the Boston Celtics was like, you know who we need on the team bus with us? Dave Portnoy. We need Barstool.
It was probably Joe Mazzulla.
It might have been. Come on now. Okay, I got nothing against Dave Portnoy. He's built something that, trust me, he's making a lot of money with Barstool. There's no, you can argue that it's everything under the sun, misogynistic and all that stuff, but you cannot argue the fact that it's printing money. But why? Why does he need to be on the team bus?
You're a fan. You're nothing more than a fan. You don't need to be on that team bus, showering yourself in champagne.
That's the worst part. He's like,
with
yeah,
the team,
look at me. Hey!
as if you had just helped them win the title. Because all you did was sit courtside a couple of times and yelled at a couple of players. That's all your contribution was. I don't think it's a good look to be up there showering yourself in champagne with the Boston Celtics. That's my take on it.
Well, yeah, just no. Why? First off, whose harebrained idea was this to put him on the team bus? And then second, Dave Portnoy acting like he's a member of the team. Like, I'm one of the boys. Like, no, dude, no, you're not. You're a fan. Stop it. Oh, jeez. Okay, way to go, guys. I got another one real quick here. Is it a technical foul that ESPN is apparently, well, as of now, not going to bring Pat McAfee back for College Game Day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pat McAfee, I think, brought a new injection of life to the College Game Day. And he's a fan favorite. I don't see why ESPN would not want him back. And maybe the dollar amount isn't right there per se right now, but if ESPN wants to continue having those ratings and having the successful year that they had as far as College Game Day broadcasts go, you got to include Pat.
Yeah, it's baffling to me that I know that he's had his issues with ESPN's management and whatnot, and ultimately got one of them who was apparently a conniving you-know-what fired and all this stuff, but you need him on that. I know they're bringing Nick Saban in this year, and that may be the thought. We've got Saban. It's like, okay, you don't realize. I can tell you point blank. I've got he's a cousin-in-law. He's a cousin of mine he was a freshman last year at the University of Utah. He'll be a sophomore this coming year. When College Game Day went to Utah this past year, he probably wouldn't have gone, except for the fact that Pat McAfee at his show and him being on Game Day was there. My cousin, he showed up and he was there. I was like, why'd you go? He's like, Pat McAfee, man. It's just he's a McAfee.
He's become an icon.
He
he's
absolutely
become an icon. And I think it would be a bad move on ESPN's part to not bring him back, because really he did help boost the ratings so much for a show that 2 years ago was struggling a little bit for ESPN.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense why they're not bringing him back, but I guess really it comes down to how much you're having to pay Nick Saban maybe to do it.
That's true. That is true.
I don't know. One of those interesting parts. All right, Alex, thanks for stopping by, man.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and can't wait to do this again more often.
But so this is going to be a thing. It's going to be kind of a rotating cast just between the three of us, so it should be a lot of fun. It's summer, so we kind of just talk about whatever is out there in the ether. Now, when it comes to football season and basketball season, there's a lot more focused stuff, but we'll have some fun along the way. So thanks for being a part of it, and thanks for stopping by. Absolutely.
Again, thank you for having me.
All right, coming up next, I'm going to switch out the co-host chair. We're going to have Christian Esparza stepping in. We'll get into hour 2 of the program, talk a little bit. We'll probably talk some of the same topics with him as well. We'll get into all that next as the Saturday show rolls on right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.